All right, what is up? If you are tuning in, you're kind of maybe getting your laptop set up. We'll take a little bit before we um, kind of launch into some different things to let you get acquainted with your screen. If you're watching, there's usually a chat bar to your right. And in there, I will put kind of some info. If I mention an email or something that needs to be spelled out, I'll put it in the chat bar. If you have questions throughout, as I'm going along, you can put those in the chat bar as well. And I'll kind of get to those on the back end, any questions that get asked during the stream. We don't want to spend a whole ton of time here, but we do want to make sure that we cover all our information. If I have not met you, my name is Lane. I'm the student pastor at First Baptist of Marble Falls, and I'm super excited to take your kid to camp with us on Friday. Camp Collide is one of my favorite weeks of the year. And I'm just excited for all that God is going to do in that. To give you some background on Camp Collide, this is our 11th year, because last year was year 10. It's our 11th year doing it. We started it when I was 19. I was an intern at First Baptist Georgetown, and we started Camp Collide with a few other churches. And I've been taking students ever since, either as interns in places or youth pastor in places, and just love what's there. It's in Latham Springs, Texas, which is a little bit kind of northwest of Waco. And it's a Baptist encampment up there. We rent it out for the few days that we're there and run our own camp through it. So probably about a little over a 2-hour drive, which will be kind of useful to you as we get the rules and talk like that. Or if you are somebody who's maybe coming late or has to pick up your kid early, to know when that is and how far that drive is really, really helpful. But it's a little bit about the location. We partner with First Baptist Georgetown as a director church, Central Baptist in Jacksonville is another director church, and our three churches kind of come together and we put on and run Camp Collide. We at this point have over 800 teenagers across about 20 different churches registered for camp. And so that's how many people will be there. It'll probably be the most full that the auditorium at Latham has been in any time that I can remember doing camp. I know last year was pretty full as well. It was pretty close to that 800 number. And so it'll be packed out. There will be a ton of teenagers, a ton of churches, stuff like that. One of our hearts behind camp is to make it as cheap as possible while still having some of the best stuff that's there. And so I really don't even know. I mean, we're almost $100 cheaper than almost every church youth camp or youth camp around from anything that I've seen. And we still have all the best stuff. So Breakaway Ministries, which is one of the largest college ministries in the country. Their band comes and leads worship for us. They've been doing it for us for a few years. Jack Thweet and his band and that Breakaway team from Texas A&M. They do that. Robert White is going to be our camp pastor. He's a pastor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area who travels around and does camps. And I've seen him quite a few times, and he's absolutely incredible. One of my favorite camp pastors that I've heard, and I really enjoy him. We'll hear from him in the evenings, and that's going to be more Bible study oriented, just sharing of the gospel, growing in our faith type of stuff. The morning sessions we do a little bit different at Camp Collide. There have been years where we've had apologists come in and do apologetic sessions. Sometimes we do guy-girl sessions. Other times we just bring in people that are in the top of their field and let them share their testimony and talk about what that's like. And so this year you'll have to forgive me. I'm not great with their names, so I don't know names, but I know titles. And so the founder of Camp Gladiator is doing a morning session and sharing her testimony. And then one of the defensive backs for the Dallas Cowboys will be coming and sharing his testimony about what it's like being a believer in the NFL and what God's been doing in his life. And then for a third session, we're having a girl come in. She's her name is actually Leah Church. She played basketball for the University of North Carolina on a full ride for 2 years. And then she just felt like God was calling her to something else and that she wasn't able to live out her faith in that world. And so she quit what she thought was her dream and let God make something of it. And so those are going to be some cool stories they're going to hear in morning sessions from some really prominent people that I'm excited for our students to hear. And I always love when they get to worship with Jack, and I'm excited that they'll hear from Robert White. That's some of the main sessions. Those happen in the mornings and the evenings. From the time that we get there Friday to the time that we get there Tuesday, it will be both a whirlwind and then also a chance to relax. The biggest thing about Camp Collide that is different, maybe if your kid has been to kids camp or maybe even to like a Pine Cove or something like that, is that we really expect for our teenagers to be independent and able to keep track of their own schedule. So all over camp there are schedules of where to be and when. We just expect for kids to be there when they can. So there will not be a counselor walking side by side with your teenager at all points during the day and all points during the week. They are kind of accountable to their own spaces. There will be moments when they're with our adults and with our counselors, and there's adults all over the property. It's like a 1 to ratio, 1 to 7 ratio or something like that, that we've got out there at camp across churches and adults and things like that, not even including Latham Springs staff. Um, and so a totally safe property, but they don't go from thing to thing to thing. One of the major things is about from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock every afternoon, they have free time and they can do whatever they want. They can go to the lake and do the lake activities where there's a huge slide and inflatables on the lake. A lot of our crew, as busy as teenagers are during the year, really like just stringing hammocks and taking a nap. And they're more than welcome to sit down there and listen to some music and take a nap in the trees. There are tournaments to be played. I mean, there are things like pickleball, sand volleyball, dodgeball, floor hockey, basketball, tournaments all throughout every day. There will be about 3 tournaments each day. Kickball is one, ultimate frisbee is one this year, I think. And so they're welcome to play those if they want to do that. But no one is going to tell them or sign them up for those things. They have to be able to do those things on their own. They have to be able to wake up and get to breakfast on their own. Our leaders will be in cabins turning on the lights, telling them to wake up and get there. But they have to get there. They have to get from breakfast to worship on their own. We'll all sit together and kind of meet together beforehand. Um, but we won't be holding their hand every step of the way. Youth camp is very different in that, and that there's some independent functions in there. Other things that'll happen during the day, they'll have a quiet time in the mornings where they will meet with their group leaders. This will be one of the primary times they meet with their group of probably about anywhere between 8 to 10 teenagers in each group, and they'll meet with the Lord in the mornings right after breakfast and do a Bible study before we go to worship. And then after that morning session, they'll come out and they'll do a group time where they'll have questions about what was in the morning session and what that looked like. Um, Other than that, they'll have meals throughout the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner. We have late night activities this year. We have an illusionist coming in. I think we're doing silent disco one night. We have Kaleidogeddon one night, which if I even tried to explain to you would be impossible. It's really just mass chaos, 400 versus 400, red versus blue, a bunch of random tasks to accomplish, and an arbitrary winner at the end. But my kids get really excited about it and lean into it all across camp. And so it's super fun. And it's just fun to watch for our adult leaders. It's one of my favorite moments of camp. Usually there's some sort of fireworks at the end or something blowing up in the sky. So we'll see if that's how it ends this year for us as well. But that's a little bit on schedule. When we first get to camp, we'll check in and we'll kind of debrief with students and let them know the schedule and where to be and when, and make sure that they get their wristbands and they get to their first meal and stuff like that. That first kind of afternoon and evening is a little bit difficult. It can be a lot of new stuff, but they usually have the hang of it by about lunch the next day. We very, very rarely have any problems. One of the things I would suggest to you, if you have a kid who's coming maybe for the first time, maybe they're a 6th grader or they've never been to Camp Collide, is just to encourage them to hang out with other kids. Our group does a really good job of hanging out with the other kids that are around, and they want to help them acclimate and get used to what camp is. And so encourage them in that. Talk to our adults who will be here at check-in, and just let them know who your kid is so they can know who they are and say hi to them when they're around. We're taking 90 total people to camp, and so we take a big group. And we want to make sure that we know your kid so that way we can hang out with them and worship with them and meet with them and talk with them. For check-in, we will not leave until 2 o'clock on Friday. Check-in will begin at 1:30. When you get to check in, there will be a few things. One, I ask you to not drop off your kid and go. You will need to come through and just make sure that all of our forms are double checked, everything is paid, and that your forms are turned in. Even if you know for certain that you already did that, sometimes there is an issue on the back end with some of these forms. We already know today that names are being put in wrong and some different things. And so my administrative assistant for discipleship, Stephanie, who some of you hear from and get emails from, she's trying to work all that out and pan all that out. But you need to come in with your kid and make sure that they get dropped off, that they get all that stuff checked off. That Google form that was sent out in an email needs to be filled out, and we will send it out again tomorrow. You'll be hearing from Stephanie if you don't have it. Your final payments need to be in, which will be another email that's probably going to go out tonight if you haven't turned in final payments. Some of you who reserved like a year ago for camp are missing some of your final payments, and I think you just don't know that you've got to catch up on it. And then it's there. You'll need to turn in medications. State law says that we have to turn in medications at camp. When you get here, you will take that medication. It will be put in a gallon Ziploc baggie, zipped up, and your camper's name needs to go on that baggie, what is in that baggie, so what medication and when they need to take it. And your kid, and this is so vitally important. I missed the arm of my chair there. Did you see that? So vitally important. Your kid is responsible for taking their own medication. We are not able to. There's so much going on, and it is a whirlwind. We are not able to remind each individual kid of when to take their medication. They have to be able to stay on their own schedule and take that themselves. We will let them know when the nurse's office is open and closed, and I try to remind them in major group moments. But if your kid is on medication and they aren't able to handle their own schedule and take care of that on their own, that is a conversation that you're going to want to be able to have in the next 72 hours. Because it's just impossible, and our leaders can't memorize their schedule and find kids, and even our leaders are great and they try really, really, really hard, but your kid has to be able to keep up with their own medication. And so you'll turn that in. If your kid is on an inhaler, they can keep one inhaler on them, and then one inhaler will go to the nurse's office. And you need to turn in everything that you listed on your Google form. And so whatever that is. We usually don't have very many issues with medication, and it gets turned in, it gets taken. We'll pick it up at the end of the week, and then we'll bring it back with us. And you should need to make sure that you pick it up from us on Tuesday when we get back from camp. We'll be back that Tuesday, probably around 1 o'clock that afternoon. It depends on how quickly we can get out. We are taking charter buses this year, and so that's making our life a whole lot easier. And so there will be charter buses when you get here on Friday for them to load up into. They'll throw their bags. Some bags will go on one for the girls' cabin, and other bags will go on another for the guys' cabin. And that's how bags will be organized into those buses. They can ride on whatever bus they want, but we do have to split up the bags just so that we don't get unload weirdly at camp. Because they'll be in separate cabins at camp, and really they're on totally separate parts of the campus. We keep the guys and the girls on totally separate ends. That's on drop-off. That is on pickup. That's on structure, schedule, rules. It's not anything super intense. Out at the lake, girls, we ask that you wear 1 pieces or 2 pieces that just cover your stomach, or you can wear a t-shirt over that. Guys, you need to wear a shirt over, down to the lake. We know that you're like in summer workout mode and you're just really working on your body, working on those biceps, but a t-shirt down to the lake needs to happen. Sandals, shoes down to the lake. If you're walking barefoot across the pavement and the gravel all the way down to the lake, your feet are going to be in a whole lot of trouble by the end of it. And so making sure that you follow those rules. As far as we never really have issues, just make sure shorts cover everything. It's usually not a huge issue. No crop tops at camp. Tanks are fine. We've worn tanks in the past. So that's some on like clothing rules. No guys in girls' cabins, no girls in guys' cabins, no sharing hammocks across any genders. That's a group that really matters for our rule because we hammock a lot. And so even if, 2 girls, you're like best friends in the whole wide world, no sharing a hammock, no guys and girls sharing hammocks. Just makes our life a whole lot easier in that world. No pranks. So we're at camp to let God do a cool thing in our lives and to connect with him. And so we really don't have a huge pranking issue at all. But I say it every year of just like, man, don't bring pranking stuff. It makes our lives a lot easier. So there used to be a culture back in the day where you'd wait till the last night of camp and do something dumb. That's not our camp. That's not our kids. That's not our churches that join us for the most part. But we say it anyway to cover our bases. Guys, leave your really cool knives at home. Don't bring any of that to camp. No PDA. If you're coming with like your boyfriend or girlfriend and you're madly in love, then just be madly in love here in Marble Falls. At camp, no PDA or going off alone like that. We ask kids to stay within our boundaries, which is super easy to do because all of camp is contained, but we mentioned that as well. We're putting out this year a time that we'll let them know at camp that they can't be out of their cabin until. We have some kids who are like 5 a.m. wake up call, going on a run or going fishing down at the pond. And we're not going to really allow that to happen as much this year because there's our security on site is not up at 5 a.m. They stay up till about 2 a.m., but they're not also back up at 5 a.m. And we do have 3 different security on site as well. And we bring the security from our church, which is nice. And so we know them personally and they're fantastic and they do a really great job. That's the basics on rules. The biggest thing is this. If you're pranking or if you're stealing or if you are breaking major rules, if you get caught sneaking off with the opposite sex, things like that, that is one of those things that we are just going to call you as parents and have you come get your kid. And it's been years since I've had to do that. But we want to let you know ahead of time so that way you can have a conversation with your teenager that just says, hey, be at camp to be at camp. We don't want to have to make that phone call. We do everything within ourselves to be able to create an atmosphere and encourage kids to not make those phone calls. But I have made a 2 a.m. phone call to parents before and saying that they need to come get their kid because of some different situations going on. And so just make sure that your kid's not going to be sneaking around. Let them know that you don't want to have to drive 2 hours in the middle of the night to come get them or whatever that may be. And in some of those emails, we'll send out like a full description of some of those rules, but those are the major ones that can really become issues if they come up. On the what to bring, we sent out that list in an email. We'll send out the full list again. We did send it out once, but we'll send it out again because some of you, we've had probably maybe like a last few registrations come in within the last week. And we'll send that out to everybody that's registered again. But the highlights are this. Your kid needs to bring a water bottle. It is hot as fire in Texas. They have to bring a water bottle. They'll be able to fill it up, but they have to bring a water bottle. They need to bring sunscreen. It's camp. We're going to be outside. They've got to bring sunscreen. My advice, I think it's on our list, is like suggested, bring a backpack. So that way it can carry your water bottle and your sunscreen and your Bible, which you need to bring, and your journal, which you need to bring. That backpack helps carry those things around and helps them not lose those things throughout the day. Some of the things that previous campers have said is nice, and believe it or not, one of those things is like a hoodie. Our auditorium can get pretty cold. The AC is on full blast. I personally wear a hoodie in there because I get cold pretty easily. And so a lot of our kids will bring hoodies, or some of our girls will even bring blankets or whatever it is, just to be able to stay warm in that auditorium. It's nice because it's better than the heat that's outside, but it can get pretty cold. A flashlight for at night. You will be walking around and it can get pretty dark in some spaces at camp. So a small flashlight just to be able to make your way back to the cabin, especially if you're a girl. Our girls' cabins are furthest away, and we do that strategically. But flashlights to be able to get back to your cabin. I know a lot of us have phones, and so we use those. But that's helpful. If you have a middle school or something that does not have a phone, a flashlight would be helpful. If your kid does not have a phone or you won't be sending them to camp with a phone, I would suggest, if they don't have like an Apple Watch or some other watch, to get them just a cheap watch from Walmart. So that way they can keep time and know where they need to be, and they don't have to always be asking about that in regards to time. There will be a few moments like snack stands and stuff like that they may want cash to get snacks during free time, or to be able to buy hoodies and clothes and things like that. So make sure you send them with cash. It's super helpful to them. They can eat snacks during the week. They can buy merch from the store. And that's kind of the highlights on the what to bring. Some of the things they can bring, there's a disc golf course on site if they want to play disc golf. They can bring their own fishing poles and do some fishing if they want to bring a fishing pole. A lot of our group, like I said, likes to bring hammocks. If they have a hammock and they want to bring that, they can go for that as well. That's some of the highlights on that. They need to bring their own bedding, sleeping bags, either sleeping bags or sheets and pillows for the cabin in order to be able to do that. Again, we'll send out that full list, but that's kind of the highlights. We are team blue for Kaleidogeddon. So for one night when we play Kaleidogeddon, they will want to wear some blue stuff just because we make a big scene of it and it's fun and teenagers like to dress up and do that kind of stuff. So that's some of that. On tournaments that are available, they'll sign up for those at camp. They don't have to sign up for them ahead of time. Whatever tournaments are coming the next day, they will sign up for the night before at our church group time, and before a late night event. And that'll get announced. They'll know where to go. They just need to be paying attention for those things. I mentioned other free time options earlier. There's a million gaga ball pits, basketball courts, uh, lake activities, kayaking, swim, slide, inflatables in the lake. There's a pool on site if they would rather be in the pool, all that kind of stuff. If you're a parent and you search Camp Collide for parents on Facebook, it's a red logo with a 22. I've also sent out the link in emails. You can join that. We'll post pictures and stuff from camp and just testimonies from kids and some different cool stuff there. I'm really excited. One of our students, Brody Herman, is going to be sharing his testimony from the stage at camp, and so we're excited to hear from him. And we'll make sure to kind of get that posted for you guys as well as some of the preaching sessions and stuff like that you may want to see. Lastly, I do need one more male adult. So if you're a dad and you want to go to camp with us, I say need. We have enough to make it absolutely possible, but in order to get the ratio that I would like, we could use one more dad on that end, or another guy, or a college guy, or whatever it is. So if you want to go to camp, we just went right over the number that I wanted to, and would really like to bring another guy with us. If not, we'll be okay. But if you're available and you want to come hang out with your kid over Father's Day weekend, we would love to have you. That's some of the major things. I'm typing in Stephanie at fbcmf.org into the chat. That's our admin who's handling all of our paperwork and registrations. You're going to be hearing a lot from her in the next 72 hours on making sure that your forms are cleaned up, that your forms are turned in, that all of your money is turned in. If you need to go back and forth with her a little bit, she works with me on anything. I know there are some people that are on some different scholarships and stuff like that, that she may email you and say, hey, your money's not cut up. Just reach out to her and be like, hey, me and Lane discussed this thing, and she'll get with me and we'll finalize that. And all that to say, in the large world of things, when you get here on Friday, I will not be here. So as a camp director, I go up early and I start setting up all our production stuff. My associate, Taylor Fisher, will be here. She's fantastic. And my leaders will be here, and a ton of other adults to greet you and your kid. But when I get to camp, I kind of step out of youth pastor world and into camp director world. And so I kind of sit behind the scenes and make sure that camp runs for our kids and let our leaders do their thing and minister to kids. So that's a little bit of that. It looks like not a lot of you had questions in the chat. If you have any questions, you can send me an email. It's just lane@fbcmf.org. My name is spelled Laine. If you're on the Remind, you can always message the Remind, and that goes to me as well. And some of you even have my personal phone number. You're welcome to text that, and I'll do my best over the next few days. I will be taking a day out of the office tomorrow to spend some time with my family before I'm gone for a few days in camp. But if you get a hold of me, I'll do my best to get back to you and fill you in. If not, Stephanie will be updating you guys on paperwork and things of that sort. Thank you guys so much for joining us for camp this year. We can't wait to hang out with your kid. We know that they're going to get a chance to either grow in their faith or to meet Jesus for the first time. And that is an exciting thing for me that never gets old in ministry. And we're just stoked to be a part of it. We hope that you guys have a great night. Maybe even some of you will start your packing early as you set aside all of your favorite camp outfits or whatever it may be. But love you guys. Thanks for letting me be your youth pastor. And I hope that you guys have a good rest of your week. Bye.